Hello, Sheena Douglas here. Right now, what you're looking at is one of my new little sketchy Christmas stamps. This is an A6 stamp, and this actual image is all one image here. The little girl, the tree, the rug, the plant pot, it's all one image, and it's almost the size of an A6 stamp, so it's a good size image. Great to make big cards with if you've got your extra large nesties and things, so you know, spot on for that. Now what I want to show you is this whole thing has been coloured with distress inks. There's some fantastic tutorials out there, and you know, they're absolutely whizzes at colouring in with your alcohol pens, like your Spectrums or your Copics or your Pro markers, anything like that. But what I wanted to show you is how I colour in and create skin tones like this just using distress ink. So you know, you've got stuff there. If you're collecting the inks, you can do the whole thing with them. So we'll get cracking then. So what I'm going to do first of all is I've got my ink pad already mounted on a rocker block. Now see, I said it was a large image. You're going to need the extra large rocker blocks here if you want to get if you want to use this stamp. Obviously I've used the rocker blocks and I've stuck it on with stick and spray. But if you prefer, you can always use a foam backing and use ordinary regular acrylic blocks, works just as great. It's your choice, whatever your option is, it's all good. Now, just to save time, I've actually stamped one and cut it to size here on a piece of Centura Pearl on the reverse side. Okay, so this is actually the cream colour, but as you see, that's the side I'm using anyway, so the reverse side of Centura Pearl. And I've just stamped that with the black stays on. So black stays on, there you go. And by the way, if you're looking for any information on this, if you go to my website www.sheena.tv, there's a gallery there, all the video links are there, but also a link to where you can buy all these products, so you know, it's all good. Now let's start with, why not start with the skin, because that's the main thing I want to show you. That's the thing that people struggle with, I think, more than anything. So what I'm going to start with is Vintage Photo. And I'm going to take a little bit of my ink. Never take your brush to your ink pad. Always take your ink to a tile. A white tile is perfect. Not your brown craft mat, because the card you're going to put it on is going to be white. And you're going to need to be able to see the delicate differences in the blending here, especially for skin. So we've got Vintage Photo. The next one is Worn Lipstick. So let's just pop a little bit of that on there. Now, you're going to need a round brush, not a water brush, because you want to be able to control the amount that you're putting on here. Wet your brush and always have a piece of kitchen paper at hand. Wet it, then dab it off so you can see, and you get it to, it should be to a point like this before you start every time. This is one of the Paint Fusion brushes, you know, for like 10 quid for 5 brushes, you can't go wrong. So let's put a little bit of water, let's take a little bit out and just start blending a little bit of water in with that, and just start to see we've got like a nice a pale line. You see already you've got, you know, close to a good skin colour there. So just, that looks good. But what we're going to do is going to take a little bit of the pink and warm it up a little bit. See how now it's become a little bit more healthy looking. Right, the first one was more like me, this is more like a healthy person. Now what you want to do before you start is just get a scrap piece of paper and just see what you've got. Now already you've got a really good start of a really nice warm skin tone there. Nice peachy tone there. If you want it paler, say for a baby skin, if you can always go dark, you can always go darker, but put more water in it. But be warned that it does dry lighter anyway. But can you see, same nice tones there? Really. If you want it more brown, put a little bit more of the brown in it. And if you want it darker again, let's mix a darker one. Same colours, but just different intensity, with different water content. So you've got, you know, if you want a darker skin tone there, that's all good as well. But how easy is that? Perfect. So I'm going to use more of a lighter tone here and just mix that up, a little bit of the pink in there because baby skin, a nice rosy glow. And I'm just going to go ahead and just start round circular movements with the brush and start at the hairline and go into the hairline, because this hair is going to be darker than what we're going to end up with, and just go straight over, and there's our face. That's our face done there. We can put a little bit of a shadow on that, we'll do that in a second. So with a hand, a little bit there. You use the tiniest amount, and again you can always darken it if you want a shadow on there, but don't start with the darkest tone because you can't really lift it off. So Alright, now I'm going to put little tights on her there, so we'll just leave that. So now we've got that on there. If we want to give her a little bit of a rosy kind of cheeks, just put that there, and then wet your brush, clean it, so it's just water, and dab the water off, and then just blend around the outside. And that little, see where now it's just blended in? You can hardly see it. If you want a little bit more on, you can always put a little bit more on, and then just blend it in again. And you can put a little bit of a pinky tone maybe on the top of her hands where the light must be catching it. If you want to put a little shadow where the sleeve of the dress might be casting a little shadow, you can always pop a little bit there. And the same maybe under her neck. You might want to put a little bit of a darker shade there. But always use hardly any, don't go really dark all of a sudden, just a tiny little bit, less water. Or a little bit more colour in there. You can always put more on later, but don't give yourself a job at having a dark area that you can't remove. Now that's fab at the start there. Hopefully you can see that. She looks healthy, she's got little pretty pink rosy cheeks, it's all good. Right, so the rest of the image, the hair. Let's try a bit of Rusty Hinge, just to see if we've got a gingery tint in there. And also I'm going to keep to this vintage photo, so I'm using a bit of Rusty Hinge. I'm just going to go ahead and just wash over the whole of the hair area. It could be me when I was a kid, this one, because I actually did have like a reddy blondie colour hair, believe it or not. And was quite cute, so I don't know what went wrong there. So you see how we've got that? Now we can go in with some darker areas with the vintage photo. And you'll see, I've given you a clue here where you want to shade. You see where the darker areas are? And you'll get start to get some nice tone and variation going on there. So it looks like she's got little highlights there. And if you want it darker, less water. But the combination of that little bit of the Rusty Hinge and the vintage photos are nice make good partners, because they're nice warm palette. They work really well together. And so you've got all that nice variation there. Now what you can do is you could dry that a little bit. Have your heat gun ready, just dry it a tiny little bit. And then if you want some more intensity in that, you could always try a little bit of the black soot, but really small quantities here, really small amounts. So I didn't even wet the brush this time, it's just damp, and I'm using the tip of the brush just to go in and just add some darker tones, maybe at the nape of her neck where would be a little bit more shadow, and in the crown where it's a bit darker there. And you see, if you've got a good brush, it doesn't have to be an expensive brush, you can actually get really fine lines, just less pressure, and you get lots of texture in there. And just blend that in a little bit there. I'll be quite happy with that. And then the rest of it's really quite easy. We'll give our red tights. If you've got a mess on your sheet, just clean it off. Don't put your ink onto a wet area of your tile, because it'll just dilute your ink. Let's make this little colour red. Actually, I've put a little bit too much water in that. I could add it a bit more vibrant. So less water, more vibrant colour is what you're going to get. Give our red tights. Now you notice I'm not doing anything to the dress. I've got a plan for that. So can you see, I'm just, I don't know what the time's like here. I'm trying to have it just a little idea from my timekeeper. I think we might have to move along, but I'm just going to show you the main bits, try and hurry it up. So I have one I prepared earlier. That heart we're going to do red as well, but we'll do that just a similar way. Now we want to shade this little bit here, so blue's a good colour. Chipped sapphire, it's a really nice kind of a shadowy colour, so you might want to put a little bit of a shadow behind that leg, see, and a little bit at the top there where the dress might be casting a little bit of shadow, even behind our little foot. And then we can use that chipped sapphire as well, just to go around the outside, so darker right around where our feet are. and then just water just to blend that out. So just wet the brush again, blot it on your paper, and then just use the water just to agitate that out. You've got to be quite quick, because if it starts to dry, it won't drag out. But that should work fine there. Okay, so it looks like she's got a little bit of a shadow going on. What a little thing here I'm going to do is I'm just going to use a little bit of a brownie colour or a bluey shaded shadowy colour just to go around the outside here, and I'll tell you why in a minute. Alright, and you'll see shortly why I've done that. The rest of it, I'm going to move on because we're running out of time. But the rest of it here, I've got one that I continued. I've used some peeled paint just to scribble over the tree, and then a little bit of chipped sapphire to go inside the darker areas to give it a bit more definition. I've used chipped sapphire for the rug, and then a little bit of black soot around underneath this terracotta pot. And for the terracotta, I used the rusty hinge with a little bit of vintage photo and a little bit of black soot to give it a bit of a shadow. So that's all ready now, but you see she's not wearing a dress. So what we're going to do now is get a piece of paper, a small patterned piece of paper, take your stamp, ink it up. You just really need her, and then you're going to just go ahead and just stamp that onto your piece of paper. And then what you're going to do is you're going to just cut out the dress. Alright, just the dress. You don't need all this bit here, so it's great for using little scraps up. You need a small pattern. Now it's a different colour, but here's one I made earlier. I've cut out the dress, and I've actually cut out using a craft knife where a hand is as well. So it's not a difficult one to cut out. If I can cut it out, you can, seriously. Then what I'm going to do to make it look a bit more realistic and give it a bit of shape to it, I'm going to use a little bit of black soot again and my distress ink, and just go around the edge here like this. Oh, you know what you want to be careful of? That there's no water on your mat when you do that, because if it is, it picks it up and it's going to make it, see how that's really dark there? Right, I'm going to have to change my plan now. If that happens, you can't really get rid of it, you've just got to blend it in. It's really important that you check that you haven't got any wet little drops of water or anything on your craft sheet, because when your cut and dry foam picks it up, it, instead of sitting on the surface of your project like it does with your cut and dry foam, it actually sinks into the fibres of the cord, and once it's sunk into the fibres, you really can't blend it, you can't move it, it's static, it's stuck there. But let's see how we get on with this. It's a bit darker. She looks like she might have been up a chimney, this one. But it's fine. We'll see how we get on with it. It might look okay. It's going to look more dramatic before you get it onto your finished image. So don't worry about it. You know, don't be scared to put a little bit more shading in there. A little bit of the bottom of our sleeve. And then what you're going to do is you're going to take your image there. You're going to put a little bit of glue on the back of that, and then that is going to stick over there. And the reason I've made that little bit of a dirty colour around her hand is that if you haven't got it exactly matched with your knife, you won't see a stark piece of white card showing through. But you can see there how that's going to work. Great little technique, isn't it? I just think that's fab. And you know, just that little bit of shading on the dress makes it look like it's part of the picture instead of just something that's stuck on. And there you have it. That's skin tones and a little bit of decoupage, but blending it with your distress inks. Cheap and cheerful, easy peasy.